Gymnastics Canada is replacing its Chief Executive Officer, Ian Moss. The governing body's decision comes amid calls for a leadership change at the organization. An advocacy group comprised of hundreds of former and current gymnasts had been calling for Moss's resignation for months. The group also called for a federal investigation into the culture of abuse in the sport. In January, Moss appeared before the Standing Committee on the Status of Women. He was asked about allegations that he knew of complaints of misconduct from athletes against two coaches that allowed them to continue working. In a statement today, the interim chair of Gymnastics Canada says, quote, "We have heard loud and clear the cultural and behavioral wrongdoings that have hurt individuals and our sport. We acknowledge and respect the ripple effect of these wrongdoings, and we are moving ahead today." For more on all of this, we've reached Amelia Cline in Langley, BC. She is the co-founder of Gymnasts for Change Canada. She's also a claimant for the class action lawsuit against Gymnastics Canada, and she joins us now. Amelia, thank you so much for making some time for us.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to start by getting your reaction to this news that the CEO of Gymnastics Canada is out.
Yeah, well, it's certainly something that we've been calling for months, and in our view, it's taken too long to get to this point, but it's a welcome step. I think it's also notable that he's being relieved of his duties with the messaging to the community that he was a leader in safe sport initiatives, and that's quite problematic considering that we just heard evidence that he perhaps was implicated in turning a blind eye to allegations against a coach who he then promoted to the national team. So again, we're seeing a narrative that's being perpetuated, and that has been perpetuated for decades, where people are allowed to quietly resign with accolades when there's really no accountability for their actions and their contributions to what we say is a really toxic culture.
So what would you like to see happen next then?
So I think it's important that there is a national judicial inquiry initiated, which is, again, something we've been asking for months, because without really getting to the root of the crisis of abuse that we see, not just in gymnastics, but in sports across this country, we're never going to be able to get to solutions that actually will result in meaningful change. The resignations of CEOs are really just window dressing. They don't actually address the underlying issues.
What do you think is going to happen in the coming days as this news starts to ripple out into the sports world, not just gymnastics, but other sports as well? Because, of course, this is something that we've been talking about in recent weeks and months with a number of sports, concerns about the culture, concerns about what has been happening in the past. What do you think might happen in the sports world in this country because of this move?
Well, I hope it underscores and serves to validate the concerns that so many athletes have been raising over the last year, that in fact we do have a problem, and these people wouldn't be stepping down or resigning if that was not in fact the case. So I think it does help to really validate those concerns, and I hope that it does prompt our government and our decision makers to realize that we really need to start taking action. We need to start initiating proper investigation of the entire sports system and really get that inquiry going.
How are you feeling sort of overall about where all of this stands right now? Of course, we've spoken with you in the past. Are you feeling a little more optimistic now that this has happened? Do you feel as if some things may actually start to change now?
I'm concerned again that this might be used as window dressing to say we've done something concrete and now things are going to be better. You know, we've had an arrest of another coach on sexual abuse allegations just in the last couple of weeks. And at the same time as they announced that Mr. Moss was stepping down, they also announced that the new national team director was going to be taking over, and that person was implicated in safe sport allegations in the United States. So as you have a resignation happening, you also have a hiring decision happening that's deeply problematic. So I think what we really want to see are substantive, meaningful changes that are brought to the system. And really the only way to do that is through an inquiry to fully understand the issues and then come up with meaningful solutions that are actually going to contribute to substantive change.
What happens if that inquiry doesn't come? Then what?
Well, I think we're going to continue seeing athletes abused. We're going to continue seeing these things in the headlines. We're going to continue seeing arrests of coaches. And unfortunately, we're not going to see any accountability for the people who are perpetuating the abuse and the people who are enabling it and are in these positions of power and perpetuating this toxic system. So I don't really see a way forward that's going to result in meaningful change unless those investigations happen.
Okay, Amelia, we're going to leave it there for today, but we really do appreciate you joining us to talk about this latest development. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Amelia Cline for us in Langley, BC.